Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer. Today with me, very special guest. I think you'll really enjoy listening and watching what she brings to the table here and be inspired by her message. So Michelle, why? It's Quay. It's Quay.
No worries. You
Yeah.
try and
Yeah, I
and you do
really
a great
tried.
job.
We
You try.
practiced, but thank you. You're so generous there. So, Quay, she's an international motivational speaker, visibility and marketing coach, and critically acclaimed author. Her life's mission is to be a champion that powers women to get to the top of their mountain, one courageous step at a time, which we'll be talking about. So, the interesting background with Michelle is that at age 11, she was permanently disabled in a car accident that froze her growth at 4'4", and left her needing crutches to walk. By her own admission, she wasn't just physically small; she used to live her life emotionally small. So she embarked on what began as just a physical fitness journey and evolved into a life transformation journey when she decided to join her gym mates in their quest to climb Machu Picchu in Peru, which is fascinating. We're going to learn more about that. She hiked up to 26 miles, 8 to 10 hours a day. She had a bandage on her wrist so they wouldn't break, as that took the load from her body weight with every step on her crutches. She ultimately ascended the peak, crawling on her hands and knees at the end to the cheers of those in her party. Okay. Her book, From Crutches to Courage, Reaching the Mountaintop One Courageous Step at a Time. She has also a podcast called Make It Visible, and it can be found on her website at elevatelifecoaching.org. That's a mouthful, but we're going to learn more about that. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you for being a guest on our show. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And this is gonna be the best day ever.
That's right. All right. So, Michelle, such a fascinating story. I mean, I don't know if I could painted the picture enough for our audience, but you've really had a struggle. So do you feel comfortable like sharing your story around what happened and how you became disabled and everything?
Absolutely. And I think it's always been a challenge for me in the past to talk about my story because there's always that feeling of, oh, I don't know if this is actually important or someone else actually want to know. But, for me, living through that, at least in the beginning of the 4 years after the accident. So my accident happened at age 11. And 4 years after that, I was going in and out of rehab center. And how the accident happened was I was coming off from school one day and I was crossing the street waiting for my mom to pick me up. And there was a taxi that came, drove so fast, ran the red light, and it hit me. And when it hit me, it pushes me about 100 feet away from where I was. And I lost conscious. So I didn't know exactly how I got into the hospital, what happened, and who was there, who was involved. But I remember waking up in the hospital on the bed, watching my parents talking to the doctor, and I was just in an enormous pain, and I felt trapped. And when I looked down, I remember having this plaster wrapping around my waist, from my waist all the way to my ankle. Um, Even though they gave me pain medication, but it wasn't enough. So I could still feeling the physical pain. And because the muscle was swollen and it was just very uncomfortable.
Hmm.
So the doctor wrapped me in the plaster, sent me home to recover, and my bone wasn't healing. So ever since then, I was going in and out of the hospital, going to rehab for a good 4 years after the accident. So basically, from 11 to 15, I didn't have to go to school anymore. As a kid, oh my God, hooray, right? That's a dream come true. But it didn't really occur to me when I start until I reached to my teenage year in my adulthood that I realized the impact of what that accident had um took place, took a toll on me. Initially it was, oh my gosh, I don't have to go to school. But then by the time I got released from the hospital, I realized that I could no longer walk without assistance. and I was not paralyzed, but I could not walk without assistance. And doctors had given me a pair of brace, a metal brace to wear. So it looks really chunky, really ugly. So physically, I am not someone who's very attractive. And for 16 years old, 15-year
Mm,
old, that's
yeah.
the time of the age we want to look attractive. We want to impress people. We want to impress our friends. And I was not in a position ever to be able to impress anybody with my physical appearance. And I was 4 feet 4 inches tall. So if I were to stand up right now, it's pretty much like the same height, and which is funny because when we hit COVID time, everybody were on Zoom, right? Everybody was on Zoom, and they're like, "Okay, everybody, let's stand up." I'm like, "I am standing." So that's a funny thing to say there, but it's something like that. In the past, it triggers a lot of self-judgment on me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm already standing. Or when I go to the grocery store, I can't reach to the stuff on the shelf. And there's that self-embarrassment where because I wasn't good enough. And so there was a lot of comparison that was going through, comparing myself to how other women they look, how beautiful they are, the way that they dress. I wanted to be like them. So
Hmm.
growing up, there was always a lot of self-comparison to all these people around me who look perfectly normal. And so when I wrote my book, Perfectly Normal, that basically it's a journey of how I was growing up in a small veterans village in Taiwan. My dad is in the military. My grandparents were in the military, so we had this veterans village where we share one of the bedroom with my uncles and aunt and grandparents and everyone lived in that same big house. And so my parents were struggling, when they brought us to America, and I was struggling too because not only was I dealing with physical disability, I was also going through a lot of emotional invisible disability as well because I didn't speak English. So I was trying to learn how to speak English, learn to be accepted by my peers, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. So there was just a lot of things that was going on emotionally,
Wow.
on so many different levels.
So how did you I mean, that would almost stop anybody in their tracks. And this is why this is so inspirational. Just me hearing it, I think it will be for other people. What mental shift did you make to let that not stop you?
I think I always had that fighter inside of me. And a lot of time you'll hear me talking about the hero that's inside of us, right? I truly believe that every one of us are going through our day, no matter how challenging it is or how difficult it becomes, there's always that glimpse of moment where you know that you cannot give up. And the reason why you cannot give up is there's always hope. And the hope comes from the opportunity, the possibility of if you just push it through and stick to it, you might be able to see the different side of the view, right? Whatever that they may be. And it's always a coin toss, a 50-50 chance of what could happen. It could be happen like really, really wonderful. You hit the $1 million jackpot and you're all set for your life, or it could be the opposite. But we don't know until you flip that coin and let it land and see where it takes you. And for me, it was that single moment where I felt that this is not the way I want to live for the rest of my life. So, what do I want to do about it? And I think that's a very powerful question to ask yourself. Anytime you find yourself stuck in a moment where you don't believe that you can go on, pause and stop and ask yourself, what is the opportunity I see here?
Hmm.
What do I want to do differently? And it may work, but it may not, right? But we don't know until you actually take that chance and flip that coin. And so to me, it's almost like waking up in the morning, you have choices. You have two choices. You take action or you don't. And even if you don't take any action, there's consequences of not taking actions, right? So even if we don't make a decision, that is still in a decision in itself.
Hmm.
So I think it's really important for people who feel stuck, and that was my one thing that I did well for myself is to I asked myself some powerful question: what can I do differently, and what would be the opportunity here? Yeah.
Yeah, those are good questions, especially as we roll into this new year here. To be asking yourself, I really kind of want to get into your hike. I want to know what that. I just this past year, well, this year I'm getting ready to go and hike Kilimanjaro.
Oh,
And this past year, one of the mountains that I went up was Mount Fuji. And why this is a little bit emotional talking to you is it at the end of the first day on Fuji, my muscles were incredibly sore. Um, I can't imagine the willpower. Um, that's why it's so inspiring to talk to you. Uh, what made you like say, "Hey, look, I need to go conquer this with
mm.
Machu Picchu"? It's just I really have a lot of respect for that because I know how hard it is, and I didn't have any of that going on. I just had this and just a little bit of what I would call very minute soreness. I wasn't going on my hands and knees.
Yeah. Yeah. I my first day in Machu Picchu, just after like maybe a mile or so, because my crutches are basically, well, I can show you. So
Yes.
basically, it looks like this. So there's like this part, it's rubbing against my wrist. So it
Yeah.
was rubbing against my wrist here, and I was not. It was not very comfortable. So that was only just a mile in, and I have another 25 miles to go. And so I was lucky because I didn't just wake up and say, you know what, today feels like a good day to hike Machu Picchu. I actually sat down myself and I started to plan. So I planned for a year. I got myself into the gym. I start training. I got a lot of physical activity involved. I pride myself so for saying this because I actually got six pack when I was training back then because that's what you do. You
Yeah.
train, right? So I prepped myself for that whole entire year before I booked the ticket to Machu Picchu. And I remember that first day, that first mile, I started to feel the pain that was coming against it, right? But I got 25 miles. So part of my planning was I hired an extra tour guide to help me just to keep an eye on me. So in case, and these are a local tour guide who knows
Hmm.
the area, who's been hiking it forever. And so I hired an extra tour guide to walk with me just in case I quit or I need some additional assistance. So I did that. And I also bought myself a helicopter insurance just in case I drop and I'm dead. Somebody need to know that where I am so they can they can take me out of the mountain. So I did that. So there was a lot of safety net I had to plan in ahead of time in order for this trip to be doable, to be actually achievable. And so that after that first mile, my tour guide gave me some bandage
Hmm.
that they carry in their first aid pack and just had me wrap around the ring of the crutches. So that helped a little bit. But then by the time, so it was an 8 hour hike on the first day. I barely made it to the lunchtime. Everybody had their lunch already. They were all sit down, relax. I barely made there, ate my lunch really quickly, and in about 10 minutes people were like packing up. They need to go keep moving up because we need to get make it before dark to be able to be on the campsite. And so just after like I eat lunch, 10 minutes later, I didn't even get a chance to rest. We pack up, we move on again. And so I did that for another 6 hours or so. But by the time I got to the campsite, my wrist was burning. It was burning like they didn't belong to me. And one of the things I learned on that journey is you can never do things by yourself. And don't feel that it's an embarrassment or you're a burden for someone else when you ask for help. And one of the mindset change I had about my whole journey is that we're so afraid of asking for help when we need it. And so essentially we're stopping someone from answering their calling. Because if you think about when we're two people interacting, I'm asking your help and you gave me your hand. You reach out and you were able to help. That serves a purpose. That relationship has a purpose. And so the minute that we feel like we're being judged or feeling like playing small, we're actually stopping from someone to exercising their purpose. And their purpose in that moment is to give us their help, give us their helping hand. So if you feel that, oh, I don't want to be a burden, well, what would be the different perspective of it? Are you putting a wall in front of you so that no one can cross? If you're doing that, you're doing that person a disservice.
Whoa. Wow.
And so
Wow.
we need to ask. You need to ask because someone
That
else
gave me
is
chills.
waiting.
That gave me chills. Because I have struggle so much with doing that still to this day. But wow, when you said that, I always talk about perspective. I've never had that perspective of like, I might be stopping somebody from fulfilling their purpose by not asking them. Wow, thank you for that nugget there. Ooh.
We do that all the time. I'm not saying that we should all go out and start
Right,
asking people randomly
right,
for small thing, right? But in that moment when you're really
yeah,
struggling, you're finding yourself giving that judgment of, oh, I don't want to burden that person, oh, I don't want to trouble you. And
yeah,
this is how we learn and condition ourselves into doing things every day, right? Oh, I don't want to ask that, I don't want to be a bother, I don't want to be a troubling you. So we get emails like that, we get phone call, we get texts like that. Oh, I don't mean to be a trouble. You're not being a trouble. You're actually asking the permission for me to help you. And please do ask me to help.
wow. That's a good nugget right there. I appreciate that. So as you talk about unlocking all this stuff, what are like, do you have any practical tips that you could share with people to unlock their greatness and maintain happiness and live with courage like you have?
So I first of all, I think everybody has the courage to do what you want to do. Courage is a given thing. It's like, we wake up in the morning, you see the trees outside. All these nature has a purpose. Each and every single one of us has a purpose, right? And so courage is something that's inner, something that's built in within you. So the fact that you don't feel courageous or the fact that you don't feel confidence, it's not because you don't have it, it's because you haven't been able to recognize it, right? Because there's all these other things that's happening in the world that keeps you so busy from and distracting you from actually recognizing what is truly valuable within you. And so one of the exercise I encourage everyone to do is kind of like your a self judgment journal. I have tons of journal. I'm a journal person. I can write and write, and that really helped me. And what I encourage everyone to do is to keep a self judgment journal. And what do you do in the judgment journal? Basically, anytime you catch yourself judging yourself for not being good enough, not being strong enough, not being courageous enough, not being confident enough, that's a judgment. Or anytime you're judging someone else, or that person is too big, or that person is too annoying, that's a judgment call. Put that into the judgment journal and come up with 5 different ways of how you would think that again. If person is tall enough, well, that person is tall so that he can help me grabbing the toilet paper that's all the way on the top. That serves a purpose, right? That's a shift of perspective. So you learn to shift your perspective through a routine practice of allowing yourself to think differently every single time when you have that moment of judgment. And that's a judgment journal. Easy
Very good.
practice.
Yes. What if you could sum up your most impactful life lesson in 30 seconds, what would it be?
Oh, there's so many. Even begin 30 second. Okay, I think my most impactful moment is the moment I walked through the Machu Picchu Sun Gate. When I finally finished reaching to the top, I walked through a door, the gate, and I saw people standing up and cheering me. And earlier I talked about that we cannot do things by ourselves. And in that moment, what I realized my purpose to this earth, to this planet, in this state of moment is to provide inspiration. I am an inspiration for others so that they can inspire me. I motivate them so that they can feel empowered and they go out and create this ripple effect to empower more people. So if you're watching this show, this is what I want you to do. I just gave you a very inspirational story,
Mhm.
right? what do you want to do with this inspiration? I want you to talk to one more person today and tell them one inspirational thing about yourself. One thing. It could be, I got up this morning, took out my car, I drove to a local Goodwill place, and I donated something. It doesn't have to be big, but
Mhm.
something, one thing that's inspirational about you. Just tell that to one person. And that would be my call to action to you. Okay.
Love it.
Don't let the inspiration stop here. You want to spread and you want to make that ripple effect. And that is your purpose.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So you're big, talking about inspiration. You're big on inspiring women to find, their purpose and
Yeah.
find, do you think women can have it all? But, the love, the career, family, all that.
Absolutely. I think it's something that we search outside of us all the time. We search for love, someone else to love me back, or someone else to get seen, right? We want to feel seen, we want to feel validated, we want to be acknowledged. I need to feel that you need me. But why? There's nothing about you that doesn't already exist. So you're already this perfectly human being that you have everything. You have the love, and that love may not be exactly what you wanted. And oftentimes it's exactly what you need. Right. And so the people keep looking for things that they want externally, but what they need is to come back to themselves, and these are the things that the universe had given you already. You're already perfect. So what more that needs to be there in order for it to be perfect? It's already perfect.
So on that topic, you talked about how difficult it was for you,
Yeah.
after the accident, being a teenage girl or just being a teenager in general. And, one of my biggest concerns is everything that teenagers nowadays have to go through and see in social media and the comparison and one thing after another. And I have a son, but I also have a daughter who, I just has a really special place in my heart, and I've always told her, just go after it. She reminds me a lot of you with the smile. I mean, she's just she's a little half pint, but she's got a lot of energy, and she always brings it, and she's just fun to be around.
Yeah.
um but I think the difference is they had a great environment. What would you tell kids or even parents of children in that age to help them,
Mhm.
overcome some of those things that you had to overcome when you were that age?
So in other words, what would I tell my younger self, right? And she's a firecracker, by the way. It sounds like she's a
Yeah,
firecracker.
she
um,
is.
so what would I tell my younger self? I would say go out and explore. Go out and explore, because you're not going to be able to find your true gift. You're not going to be able to find that uniqueness, what you bring and what your purpose is, until you go out and explore. And one of the analogies that just popped into my head is where each one of us are made like a diamond. We're diamond, right? A diamond may not recognize themselves as diamond when they're buried in the dirt as part of the stone, never been polished. A diamond go through years of polish, and you gotta mold it in order for diamond to shine. And so kids nowadays at that age, as long as you don't do anything that's crazy, like illegal, right? I said you go out, explore, travel as many opportunity as you can if possible, right? Go explore different things that you like. Maybe it's drawing classes, tennis classes. Explore everything that's available to you, and leave out to the possibility of, my parents may want me to be a doctor or a lawyer, but what is it that you want? Because you're going to be stuck with it for the rest of your life, not your
Yeah.
parents, right? Your parents would be dying someday, right? Eventually, but you're going to be stuck with it. So, what brings the smiles on your face? What are you passionate about? Go with that, and it may change. That's okay too. But be curious, stay curious, and just explore the possibilities. And I think that is the best way to find your unique strength, your superpower. And once you see it, hold on to it close to your heart.
Okay, so that's my last question for today. Actually, that's why I kind of laughed there at the end. I was going to ask you, you talk about your superpower or one superpower. And again, this is so inspirational. I don't think people get it. Just the fact that you were physically and emotionally able to climb that mountain, okay, is a great testament to your mind and your willpower and also your superpower. But what's your superpower?
My superpower my superpower comes in a bag, Santa's bag. We got a whole lot of superpower, but I think of all the superpower that I have, vulnerability is one of the big one.
Okay.
Yeah, being vulnerable and asking for help, that was life-changing because for a long time I thought I have to be strong, and that's how my parents raised me. You need to be strong because you had this accident, so you got to be strong because we're not going to be there to take care of you. So you got to be strong. And so I always had that in my mind thinking that I have to be strong no matter what. But the reality is, being strong means that it's okay to cry at times. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to ask for people's help. And if I hadn't asked for help, whether it's going to a gym, signing up to a person with a working with a personal trainer, that was asking for help. Going out and booking myself a ticket to High Machu Picchu, but asking for an additional tour guide, asking for a helicopter, asking people, "Hey, can I get a bucket of water so I can soak my hands in there to comfort me by the time I get to the camp?" That's my superpower. It's being vulnerable and knowing that you can still be strong, but you can also ask for help.
I didn't expect that answer, but that was a great answer. That was an awesome. Yeah, that was fantastic. You are such an inspiration. I really hope that you'll decide to come back because I just think we could talk forever and ever. And the things that you're saying, I mean, we really believe in empowering people and inspiring people just the same way you do. And,
Yeah.
your story, I really hope people grasp that of that, it is possible. I mean, you are a living, breathing human being that conquered, a lot of mountains, not just a physical one. But and I appreciate all that you do, and I hope we can stay in touch and hopefully have you back here because I believe that people are going to be moved by your story. So, thank you. Is there any other thing that you'd like to say to our audience, or you have a favorite quote or line or something like that before we end today?
I the last thing I would say is courage is a choice. Earlier I talked about, you wake up, you make choices, right? So you get to decide how do you want to choose your day. And today may be the best day ever, right? And it all depends, rely on that one single choice moment. So I hope anytime you have doubt, you always make courage to be your number one choice.
Very good. I appreciate you coming on. Again, folks, you can reach Michelle if you want to at Michelle at elevatelifecoaching.org, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Really appreciate you watching, tuning in. Hopefully, Michelle, like I said, we'll have you back. That's all for today, folks. If you want more information, you could visit our website at centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.